Don Rush here, West Coast Classic Cougar, and today I want to do an informational video on the XR7G. I've been wanting to do this for years, but of the 10 or 12 XR7Gs I've owned, none of them have been that special. You know, they've just been old wore out cars. Some of them were full on buckets, and then this one came along. And this is one of 14 four-speed cars known to the registry. And when I say known to the registry, that doesn't mean 14 survived. That just means that 14 have been reported to the registry. It could be a picture of a car somebody used to own and a VIN number and a few sentences. There you go, it goes on the registry. But what's special about this car is the person that bought it, he's still alive, he treasured it. He special ordered it. He paid a lot of money. These were actually Lincoln money back in the day. Can you imagine spending Lincoln money on a pony car and you couldn't even get power windows? Remember, Lincolns were oftentimes more expensive than Cadillacs. So that's part of why these have such low production numbers. We used to think 619 survived, but some prototypes and promotional cars have popped up, so that number's crept up over the years. But I want to walk you through every bit of what makes an XR7G unique. And this started out as the XR7S. That was the first prototype, and S stood for Shelby, we think. Anyway, at some point they said, let's give it its own designation, make it unique from the Shelbys. They were built on the line, prepped on the line right there at A.O. Smith next to the Shelbys. And I want to do a shout out to the Shelby Club of America. Vincent Liska provided us with a ton of information, documents, lots of back and forth letters to Ford, and also the XR7G registrar, Philip Payne, and then of course Royce Peterson. He used to be the XR7G registrar, now he's the GT registrar. And then Bill Basore, who has also unearthed a lot of original documents. So let me walk you through bit by bit what makes this car unique. Okay, so first off, let's look at the front end. We got these very unique click pins here, these hood pins. And these are a little different than just auto parts store ones. They were trying to really make this a unique ride. So you got the little detent pin there, and these are, you can see the little round pattern there and the vinyl covered cables that screw to the bottom of the hood. And these are double-sided tape, no screws, no rivets. So these are unique to the XR7G. There's a guy that shows up at Ford Spring Carlisle and sells these kits if you're missing them. Anyway, very unique, hard to come by if you're missing them. Another thing, these were delivered with the emblem on here, and you can even see the marks with the rectangular stock emblem used to be here, and they just pried them off, and then they drilled a couple holes in there, put a little mounting plate on there, and then this is held on with double-sided tape. And this is the same emblem that's on the C-pillar on both sides. For years, a place called ASCO that supplied them to A.O. Smith, Ford, still had them, and you know, you'll see these floating around, and they still, up until a few years ago, stocked these, which is kind of odd. But anyway, that's a unique emblem for the G. Let's move on to the fog lights. Here we got the Lucas Square 8, and look carefully at this. You know, it says England here. It has a few unique attributes. There's a lot of lights that look close. There's also some driving lights. These are fog lights. And these are reproduced actually. That's the same one you would have saw on a Shelby, California Special. They also put them on Range Rovers and Rolls Royces back in the day. This is a very valuable set of lights here. It has its own unique hardware for this car. These valences were hand cut, and what I've noticed is every one's a little different in the way they're cocked, and we have a used valence on our website that's documented, and then they built these buckets to go in there. We do sell this reproduction valence in these buckets if you want to do a G look-alike or replace the valence on your XR7G. These oftentimes, as you know, get crushed, so finding one like this that's near perfect is really hard to come by these days. something else I want to touch on, early versus late. The very earliest cars got Marshall lights down here, and in some states they deemed them as too bright. So there was another recall. Let's get those Marshall lights off and put on the Lucas lights. Somebody actually parted out the president of the Hertz Motor Corporation's personal car. They were the first to order 200 of these. And anyway, I got those original Marshall lights off that parts car years ago. Here we have a sport racing mirror, we'll call it. This is the same basic design as you'd see on a Rambler Scrambler or Hurst Olds, except they were manual mirrors. This is a remote. We do have these mirrors reproduction. Also, they had to put an adapter base to make this. And notice this is a Jamaican yellow base. And as some of you may know, whenever Ford painted mirrors, they painted them away from the assembly line. So they were not squirted the same time as the body. And somehow something went south on this and they put the wrong base on there. That's the way it was delivered. So the quality control on these cars wasn't always great. They were kind of a hand-built boutique type of car, just a few hundred made. So you will see anomalies like this on these cars, and you'll see differences throughout them. You know, one of the things is they changed wheels. So your first run had an aluminum cast wheel with a chrome band riveted on it, and they were terrible. We got documents showing how they flexed on the big block cars, and these aluminum wheels would flex so bad that the caliper would rub on the inside of the wheel. They had misalignment in where the lug nuts were drilled. They didn't know how to drill lug nuts properly, or lug nut holes properly. The other problem with them is where they riveted the aluminum center to the steel outer, they would leak. So every problem imaginable. And eventually they recalled them. So it's just a few sets of those original Raider wheels out there. And they were kind of aggressive in their recall, meaning you couldn't just ignore it. They'd show up at your house and say, we want our wheels, because it was looking like, you know, extreme failure could happen. So the very few sets out there that survived are worth thousands and thousands of dollars. This being a later built car did not get those. Here's something you'll notice. The XR7G has a unique center cap. They're die cast, screw on from the back. No real, casting marks, but no part number. That's what your plate looks like. And the decals always fade. You know, they're supposed to be red. This is a reproduction decal, and it too was faded. They're known for blistering. You know, they're die cast. Here you see the chromes coming off this one, and you see a little, but they're easy to re-chrome. So anyway, whether you got the Raider wheel or the style steel wheel, this is the center cap you would have had. Had you got the Raider wheel, you would have had a cone adapter that made it stick out, you know, from the wheel a little bit. And those are super rare. If you ever come across any of those Raider wheels, let me know. They are worth a small fortune. I'd like to own some more of them. Let's focus on the hood scoop. At first glance, you would say that's a GTE hood scoop. A little different. The G had these little fins here. They were non-functional. At some point, somebody made this hood scoop functional, but that's what we got today. Just a low-profile, dual snorkel, non-functional hood scoop, only on the XR7G. Reproductions are available. So next up, I want to show you some more emblems. Normally, us Cougar guys are used to seeing these 6.5 emblems, 6.5 liter emblems, and that means it's an X-code 2-barrel. Well, you could order an XR7G with a 2-barrel 390. There's a few made, but if you got the 4-barrel, like this one is, 390, you still got something that said 6.5 liter. This does have the GT suspension package, but they didn't want to confuse things. XR7G, GT, you know, just too many things going on there, so they decided not to put the GT emblems on there. Here again, we got the emblem, and these are held on by double-sided tape, so a lot of times that tape got dry and these fell off, so finding one that's in place is kind of rare. Now, where the gold didn't usually fall off is in the interior. So if you look at that emblem right there on that steering wheel, that's 14 karat gold. Same over on the passenger side above the glove box. Again, those were available, and you saw them in lots of catalogs throughout the 90s and whatnot. They were available as reproductions from a company called ASCO. So kind of one more thing. You could also get a pewter emblem or a burnished look emblem in there that, in no rhyme or reason, just some people didn't get the gold and some people got the burnished look. And there was a lot of controversy on what was correct over the years. A lot of people said, oh, that's just an old emblem that the gold plating came off. And up came all the original drawings for these cars that surfaced years ago. So that took away all the bickering about what's right and what's not with these cars. Here's one more emblem. You know this is an original because it fills the gap in here. The reproductions, or I should say the later run ones made by ASCO, were small and left a big gap in here. These are currently being reproduced by a company called Paradise, and we do have these on our website in reproduction. They look pretty good. So that's just one more unique emblem on the car. Next, I want to draw your attention to the pipe inside a pipe. And to me, this is really attractive. I like this exhaust system a lot better than the GTE. And so you got the horseshoe cutouts here. And look at this. This is the original exhaust, factory exhaust, and they weren't real careful. This one sticks out about yay much, and that one sticks out a little further. And you know, they got a Shelby part number on them, and they just slide on your tailpipes. So when it comes to being correct on your XR7G, you know what? Do what looks best to you, because obviously there is some variation. I kind of like them tucked in more. I don't like them sticking out as much as that, but there you go. Just go for personal preference, whatever you like the best there. Here's something really unique. There's only a few of these that have existed, have remained in existence over the years. I do believe the XR7G has the honor of being the first American production car to ever come standard from the factory with radial tires. So yeah, this is an original and doesn't have a lot of tread left on it. Run it right down to the tread wear indicators. But yeah, here's your 990 wide, Silvertown, BF Goodrich. Wouldn't it be wonderful to find a set of NOS tires like this? But yeah, there's your original spare. Obviously they ran it for a while, but yeah, I've only seen maybe 3 or 4 of these in all my years that have survived, and they were always spares, of course. The only thing that would make this better is if it was on one of those original Raider wheels. Now you'll notice on this car it does not have the power sunroof, which is actually more rare than a G with a sunroof. And part of that was they found out early on that on big block 4-speed cars, you had enough flex in them that they were cracking the windshields. So they discouraged people from ordering big block 4-speed cars with sunroofs, whether it was a G or not. And I've seen that happen actually. And the way the windshield cracks is sometimes you get 2 parenthesis marks right in the middle like that. And that's from your car doing that. So if you have a big block car or a zesty small block car and a manual transmission and a traction lock like this is so equipped with, you might consider looking at our performance handling upgrades. One of the things you can do is put a big metal plate behind the back seat, and that gives your unibody rigidity. Okay, try not to bust my chops here. No, I have not detailed this engine compartment. It's got a long ways to go. But what I mainly wanted to show you here, everything's going to be the same, but the special pent roof valve covers here. And on the bottom side, of course, there's a Shelby part number on that. And to make these fit, and boy, they just barely fit. I mean, look at with the smog and the clearance and everything. Look how close it is to the master cylinder there. You got some tight corners in there. But anyway, one of the things they did is, like you might see on a Boss 429, you had to have a funky snorkel. So they took this common Ford snorkel and put an extra joint in it. And then what's really funny is, look how close it is to that live terminal on the starter solenoid. Quality control right there. And then it's rare to see these big block cars with this setup that still have the S code, the S-shaped tube there, because it just doesn't quite line up. Now, little bit of trivia here. Only the non-Hertz G cars got the finned aluminum valve covers. And there's a couple reasons for that. If it's a rental car, you know, what's the customer doing under the hood anyway? And you want to make your rental cars as cheap as possible, nor do you want to have to do an inventory each time the car gets checked back in to see if the valve covers are still there. Another thing about the Hertz cars is each one of them was outfitted identically, no variation. They all had tilt columns, AM radios, air conditioning, power disc brakes, automatic, sunroof. The only thing that varied was the color. And I think they gave them the full rainbow of colors. I think pretty much every color was used in that run for the Hertz equipped cars. One more thing, us Cougar guys are a little jealous of the Shelby guys. The Shelbys got the export brace, you know, the one-piece heavy-duty piece, you know, because supposedly it was a performance car and they needed rigidity. And the reason they have the word export brace is when they started exporting the first Mustangs to Europe, they said, this is ridiculous. We drive 100 miles an hour on some of these roads. You need to stiffen this up. So every Mustang, not just Shelby, that went across the pond and was exported to Europe had one of those. But our Cougars never got them. You could get them as a over-the-counter option, but maybe that would have helped, and maybe some windshields wouldn't have cracked if they'd stiffened it up there. So that's one of those little sticking points where us Cougar guys get to be jealous of the Shelby guys. Okay, one of the things you'll notice different about this interior is the custom handmade leather console. And it's really a nice piece. I like driving and resting my arm on there. Has this little bullet connector here that goes into this simple little piece there, and has this flimsy little liner that always cracks. Somebody's 3D printed those, so you can get a reproduction. It's got a little bit of flocking on it. Each one, well, not each one, I've seen them without. This is it says roof on this, even though there is no sunroof. You got that. And this one would have been fog. So this is to turn on and off the fog lights. And at least one documented XR7G did not have this. So they had the Mustang fog light switch on there and then had no sunroof. That's one way to do it. Like I say, these cars, you know, being built one at a time, they varied. Here's another cute little thing. This is the same little plaque that you would have saw on a Shelby. And for a while, since there's so few of these 4-speed cars made, some people argued that that never came on a Cougar because there'd never been an instance of one. But I used to own a XR7G 4-speed car. It was a real rusty car. And it had an outline where this was. So I figured they always had it. Well, here we go. Here's a one-owner original low-mile car that still has it. And when the drawings came up for these cars, that was also included in the drawing. Here's another fun little piece. The XR7G got a real walnut shift ball. If it was automatic, it would have been the T shifter with a little tiny emblem on there, gold-plated. And that same tiny emblem was used in tie tacks and other merchandise that you could get at your cufflinks, money clip, all that. Same little Cougar used elsewhere in their merchandising. Okay, just like the Shelby, you got the Sport Grip 500 steering wheel cover. And it's just it says, you can see the 500 right there, but it's just a cheesy plastic cover and a little different than maybe other steering wheel covers of the day that look similar because you count the holes and it's a little different pattern on the holes. What's fun about these cars that the steering wheel cover stayed on its entire life, if you were to unlace this and take this off, you basically have an NOS steering wheel under there. I had 1G though, it'd seen quite a bit of sun, and this steering wheel cover was very deteriorated. Anyway, I took it off, just broke it off, it was so brittle. What I ended up with was a polka dotted steering wheel because the UV rays had shone through each one of these holes and gave me a spotted look. So let's see what else on the interior is unique. We already talked about the gold emblems. Do notice that this console goes all the way up to here, unlike the consoles in the other cars. They encapsulated the radio bracket. This one just goes right up to it. Notice that the cutout here is identical whether you have 4-speed or automatic. If this were an automatic car, they would have given you the little tiny square 67 Mustang shift bezel with a domed top that would have fit in there. Really, it looked kind of hokey to me. You know, that's how they did some of these cars. They didn't make special run parts for these cars. They took stuff off of other production runs, like this part. This bezel here is a modified 1968 Lincoln rear window switch assembly that would have operated the courtesy light, opera light, and power window. So they just put a little decal that said roof, and then they put their wood grain decal where the Lincoln overlay would have been, and then they ground it down. The Lincoln one's a little taller, and so they just ground it down, and voila, you have a specialty switch just stolen from another car line. But oh, one last thing on the interior is the door panels. The first thing you'll notice, instead of vinyl textured pull straps, that's real leather. So they had the same core spring steel piece in here, but they wrapped these in real deal leather. And then also this, if you look real carefully, you got to kind of shine the camera towards here. This has more, they put more puffy in here. So I think they even had and I've seen them stamped on the back, XR7G, you know, big black stamping. And so I think they called them Super Puff or something in their documentation. But anyway, I don't particularly care for them because I'm always worried, since they poke out further, that the window crank is going to run a pattern. And when I always roll up my windows on a G, I hold it a little bit out so the stupid window crank doesn't rub on the door panel. So if you got original XR7G door panels, you know, do know that they're a little different and kind of hard to, very hard to find. So treat them nicely. But yeah, to close up this video, why didn't they make more of these? And why was there no advertising literature? You know, they made a poster for the dealers. They had some postcards. No commercials like the GTE. Well, part of it is the quality problems. It was ongoing quality problems. We have documentation where A.O. Smith is writing back to the factory saying, hey, you got to pay my guys overtime for all the wiring issues, for all the fitment issues, for the sloppy, wrinkled up leather covers on the front seats. And then, you know, just issue after issue, a little bit of bickering actually. It was a strike year with Ford. So 1968, they were having quality issues and production issues. So this one, and plus the price, I mean, you know, it was just a gussied up pony car. It wasn't that special. I mean, we love them because they're so unique and everything, but it was big money for, you know, a console and some lights and some emblems and this, that, and the other. So no wonder they didn't sell thousands of these. Fun little side story. I had a customer call me and say, my dad was a supplier. His company was a supplier for some of the unique items on this car, like the T shift handles and the 4-speeds. And obviously they didn't make as many as they thought they would. So when they changed over and the 1968 model year was over and they were no longer going to use those shift knobs, my dad brought home a shoebox full of 4-speed XR7G shift knobs. And we as kids, every time we had a chance to put one on our Stingray bicycle for the shift knob or the riding lawnmower or a go-kart, we grabbed one and put it on there. He goes, well, I'm cleaning out my parents' garage, and I come across half a shoebox full of these shift knobs. And I did the research and I found your website. I see they're documented on there. And would you like to buy them? And I said, yeah, show me some pictures. So he takes one out of the box and he gives me some good pictures. I'm like, that's it. You got 20 NOS shift knobs? Oh my gosh. And so he goes, I know there isn't probably 20 people out there that want them, but you know, so we were negotiating on a price. We came up with a price, and then he calls me back and said, I'm so sorry, Don. My mother paid some neighborhood kids to clean the garage and just gave them to them. They're gone. So I'm like, oh crap. Fast forward a year or so, and I'm looking on eBay, and last 427, that's his moniker. He has a Grecian gold 427 car that was actually the last 427 Cougar, last 427 Ford car ever made. He says he finds them on eBay and calls them up and says, okay, I won your shift knob. Do you got any more? And he buys them all from the kid. So anyway, it was, even though I didn't get them, it was very cool to hear that those didn't just get stuck on riding lawnmowers and blown to the wind. They actually got out in the hands of collectors and eBayers and people that own these cars. So fun little story. You do this kind of job like I have for 35 years, and you collect some of those stories. And owning a few of these XR7Gs has been a lot of fun, just seeing the uniqueness of them and the history, and talking to people that rented them from Hertz back in the day. It's just been fun documenting these original cars. So if you have any questions about your XR7G or an XR7G you're looking at, reach out to me. I don't know everything, but I got an opinion on most everything. And I hope you enjoyed this video and it helped you preserving your XR7G, or maybe even in your purchase of an XR7G.
You're the original owner. I'm sure you had to special order it.
I did. I waited 4 months, I think, until it finally came in. Just always liked the looks of it. I just cared for the car. That's it. So I ordered the damn thing special, and that was the end of that.
Postscript. I can't believe I forgot this. I uploaded the video and somebody said, well, what about the story about the horn? The XR7G has a third horn. It's a Delco Ramey horn of all things. And legend has it that on the day that they had the press release, they had Dan Gurney take a couple laps around the track. I don't know what track. And so he gets out of the car and they said, hey, Mr. Gurney, what do you think about your namesake car? And his only comment was, you can't hear the horns worth a flip over 100 miles an hour. So as a nod to Dan Gurney, so legend goes, they pasted in this third Delco Ramey horn. And when I say pasted in, check it out. You got this, what is these called, a Scotch lock? Yeah, it's just spliced in is what it is. Anyway, reality is, Dan Gurney had very little to do with this car. Maybe Carroll Shelby had more to do with this car than Dan Gurney. From I was told, he was just told this was going to happen, and he was fine with it. So this is, legend has it, this is the only real involvement Dan Gurney ever had with this car, was this horn. You can find these on Lincolns, like 1968 Lincoln Mark IIIs. So yeah, if you're out hunting in wrecking yards and whatnot, it's a valuable find if you come up with one of these that works. So yep, that's my little postscript there that we forgot to put in.